This conference will now be recorded.
Original GSP indicated us in 40-some acres north side, and she goes west to the park boundary, expansion out of 28 Jordan. Whole bunch of it's significant.
So like, if you looked at the maps, it was really interesting how they figured all that out. But you could tell that it was.
It's at.
Okay, are we, okay, we're on the highway. All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Face the flag. And ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Let's do the roll call, shall we?
Oh, here.
Here. I won't answer for you. Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Director. Here. Vice President.
I'm here. I'm here. Thank you. So we have an agenda before us and there are no corrections.
We still like it, no changes.
So if you like it, I would, thank you, I just like tongue-tied. So we have it moved by Director Baker and seconded by Director Moran, and if there's any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're good. So any comments from the public and or requests for future agenda items?
Should I just wait to make comments when it comes on the agenda?
Yeah,
We have.
you wait. Oh, this is the first item on the agenda.
So, I'm not hearing anybody online either. So how about if we have any comments from the directors?
I have a comment.
You do,
Yes,
Director Duncan.
the longer I am on this board, and I want this on the record, the more I realize how screwed up previous boards were. Entering into financial arrangements that just don't make any sense. They might have benefited someone individually, but certainly not the district or its customers. This whole issue is we're kind of opening up the door to the EDUs with the wastewater treatment plan. Really opens something that should have been opened up a long time ago. The issuance of EDUs to some commercial entities just doesn't make sense at all. And all of this needs to be fleshed out and corrected. It's a mess.
I hope you will educate us on that.
You'll be hearing about it soon.
We'll be hearing about it soon. There you go.
That is very interesting information. I was not aware.
Well, it's just,
of
I
that.
mean, it's everything up from deals on flood control, which made no sense for the district. It never did. It benefited some individuals, but it did not benefit the customers of the district. I mean, there's been a whole series of things. And like I say, the longer I've been here, the more of this that is kind of exposed itself, surfaced. It's just incredible what previous boards did, and it's shameful. It just is shameful. And I hope that we, I can correct everything that we see, and I'm sure that there may be other things we will see in the future, but things that were done were really not in the public interest. My comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Director Johnson.
I have a question for Dave and maybe more for Jeff. How how good or bad are our records? Like what you're talking about, did it happen after the districts were combined into BWD, or was it when? Did
Well,
Georgia,
certainly
for
with the
example?
wastewater treatment plant, it was 1982 and forward. And that was at a time when the districts, you know, the local private districts had been combined. You know,
This is a discussion that we should not have.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
You can have it, we can talk about it later.
It'll be on the agenda soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just a fresh topic with the committee, Tammy and David. We're just gonna do eye opener up, so, yeah, Dave just needed to share this emotion with everybody. So the committee's up to here with the issue, we'll be bringing it back.
Clearly, it just has come to someone's attention and.
Well, I mean, this is
No,
the issue
I'm
of the
very
day.
interested, I'm very interested in being educated about this.
You know, this is just the issue of the day. There have obviously been others that this board and the previous board talked about the financial state of the district and on and on. You know, I mean, this is just a new one that got laid on the table. And it's just a doozy.
It's a whopper.
It's a whopper. No pun intended.
Well, and so my comment is, thank goodness we have a board that is a hardworking board that is here for the public interest. And I really appreciate all of you.
No joke, Kathy, combined with, we've been around long enough, the staff level, what's going on in the history, and like, no joke, we really do have excellent consultants. Like, the team we have assembled with their own little areas of expertise, ready to do that, is still a whiz kid with wastewater treatment plant, and now he knows our plant up one side, down the other, so, there's no background and getting up to speed. We got up to speed on our total number of EDUs. That was challenge number one, but we've got over that hurdle finally. We have 912. I'll never forget that number. But we don't know where the 912 came from. So anyway, excellent consultants, excellent committee. We're all motivated to figure it out. So
Excellent. Well,
there is a light at the end of the
I appreciate everyone's hard work and and that it results in the surfacing of these issues that need to be corrected. So thank you very much. Yes, comment?
So just a question on the room layout, since this is our second time here, do you feel like you can see Gina and Diane? I feel like I need to push back. We move the table forward some, so you're part of the conversation.
Personally, I can see everybody.
Can you?
Yeah.
This is
Can,
all right?
can everybody see everybody
Can you-
else?
Diane, can you see?
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
I mean, if you want to like say something, do you feel like I can lean over the table?
It could lean out a little bit. I can do it.
slide that out maybe a foot.
I was just saying, to move the table out, I just kind of feel like I don't want to be in your.
Oh, I feel that way with Gina, that I know that I know.
I have my contact.
Yeah.
We'll slide it out in the next.
It's only our.
It's like, it's perfect for me. I'm out.
That's
That way.
You're out a little bit, so I feel like you can see everybody.
We can we can resort to step logic. So, do we have any correspondence from the public? Okay. So we're gonna go down to section 2. Our 2A is our consent calendar. We have 4 sets of minutes that hopefully you have reviewed, and if there are any, those were the last sets from. Is there one more? Oh, I think that was.
Let's be it, yeah.
And so, yeah, if there are there any corrections to the minutes? Ms.
Page 5C, it says the officers were elected for a 2-year term.
Mhm.
I think we elect for a 1-year term.
Oh, we
Every January, we elect the officers.
This is typically the January after the election, so I think 2 years is all done.
But it's 2-year term? Okay.
Sorry.
Unless she wants it, right, Kathy?
Otherwise, good.
Just have to-
No other corrections? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve? Second by Gina. Any further discussion? Anybody from the public want to make a comment on the minutes? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, go forward with approval.
Wendy.
Yeah. And welcome to our new minute taker. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. Now we're down to.
Talk LAFCO, shall we?
Yes, 2B, the LAFCO elections for alternate and special district members.
We've all heard about LAFCO recently, with
Yes.
gas tax,
Oh, I was-
questionable expenses, and whatever else goes on
And I
down
was
there.
just reading about La Jolla wanting to become a city. That's interesting.
I used to be in our document. Well,
Yeah. So,
So it is that time for the special district representatives, the regular and alternate member. It's time for their elections. So in the packet, we have the entire packet, in our board packet, I included the entire set of documents received from LAFCO about all the candidates. I've looked through it. Barry's been here maybe 3 elections now, at least this one and the one before.
First week.
But by the time you've been, okay, so you were here on the initial.
yeah.
But doing a great job. He's the incumbent. Obviously, he cares. He's the only one that gave me a call. The only one that showed up at the meetings, and he really did meet
All the
me.
way out here.
Yeah, he did meet me. He said, "I would love to meet you face to face someday." So.
It was so torturous. Beautiful mountains.
And so staff recommends Barry. And then for the regular member, David Drake, I've known, and I work on the other side of the hill.
Regular or alternate?
He's, Barry's the alternate.
No, I'm the regular.
Oh, you're the regular.
Yeah.
David Drake's the
Yeah.
alternate?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So then David Drake, director on the Rincon Del Diablo board. I've known David for probably 15 years, because I worked at both Carlsbad and Rancho Santa Fe in the 90s. So they'll love the old timers. And David's one, and David's really smart and inclusive, and yeah, he's
Got 50, he's got 50.
50 pounds. Yeah, he's a scientist, yeah.
Wow.
Really, really smart.
I thought you had 20, you corrected me.
And so they're both the incumbents, and so, I see no reason looking further, so staff's recommendation would be cast our vote for Barry and David Drake.
And would you like to see?
Oh, yes, I would like to say a few things.
Of course.
President Dice, Director Duncan, Director Baker, Director Johnson, Director. It is so good to be here. No offense, I know Zoom has its place. I'm sick and tired of Zoom. Tired of it. To be able to be here and to meet you face to face, to get to know you, so you can get to know me. I made a pledge to myself last time around, just a few minutes.
Please, yeah.
Okay. Last time around, as you probably remember, or maybe you don't remember, I was up against an incumbent. I traveled to 55 of 63 special
I remember
districts
that.
to be the incumbent, 21 minutes. This time around, it's different. But I'm still getting to every district. This is my 53, 54. I'm really not kidding. When I say I'm going to get to every district, I'm going to get to every district. In person. And so I believe that is when you ask for someone's support, you do it in person. I just believe that whole to listen to you, to what's important to you as board members. Have to listen, really listen to what's important to you. On LAFCO, when I got elected, first of all, it was a thrill. We were out of the country and I got the call. My feet left the ground about 2 feet. I had won by two votes. So, I mean, it was exciting because I realized all the hard work paid off. I got the call. He's not calling me, probably telling me lost. So I called back really quick. It was a keen sound. You just won. You beat the cup. So, since I've done LAFCO, I have not missed one board meeting. I have not missed one vote. I take my job very seriously. I'm endorsed by former supervisor Diane Jacob. She said to me, "You were always very prepared. You've always asked lots of questions. And you were always into it." I like the way she said you're into it. I appreciate Diane Jacob. It's surreal that she's not here. I said, "Diane, this is really surreal that you're not here. It's going to be weird." But anyway, I'm a big believer in local control. My intent is always go up when I see that a larger government agency is being strong, overbearing with a smaller agency. And that situation does come up, and I always try to remedy it. It was a bittersweet thing to hear about, to deal with Ravens Fire Department. I didn't want this to happen. I listened to the Chief Hardcastle. First of all, I wanted to know what the vote was. It was 3-2. I was hoping it was 5-0. That would have been better. But then I listened to Chief. He got before LAFCO. He said this really is the best thing. Okay. Because I didn't want him to, I was hoping that he was going to say there's some kind of pressure, overbearing pressure for CAL FIRE, that they were pushing him to do this. But he just thought it was the right thing. I'm going to meet with the chief today. Down there. So I love
right down the street.
I know. I love.
Right here.
I just love his. I love all the work. I know Don Lutz, Lakeside Fire. I met him for lunch the other day, and I'm open to meet you for coffee sometime. We get together. I'll be down here again, and I'll be glad to meet with you and hear what support.
Here's the good news. We are very stable, right? Structurally, no need for overthrows or changes in structure, no needs for consolidation. We are so geographically isolated, like the chance of consolidation. I work in the Santa Fe Irrigation District and Carlsbad/Costa Riel Water District back in the day, and those were obviously special districts. Carlsbad ultimately merged with the city of Carlsbad. I was there for that entire merger. So, we don't have those, I'll say pressures, but those issues related with boundary adjustments, who's going to serve what. So, we kind of are on our own. We stick to our core responsibilities. Try not to get too
I kind of see my
distracted on other issues, but they're all very important. But we're probably not your typical special district in fear of takeover, hostile takeover, either due to economic problems or whatever other factors might lead to something like that. What Dave was talking about was the past. That group is gone, and what we're doing here is really amazing.
I'm going to a conference that you have to ask for their vote. They've had some issues. So I'm not going to address that. I'm just talking about LAFCO. I'm here to make LAFCO less. I'm here to make LAFCO less obscure. It's an obscure agency. A lot of people don't understand. When I tell people I'm running for LAFCO, I say, what's LAFCO? Local Agency Information Commission. Some of the things I'm concerned about dealing with the smaller districts. I noticed that these annexation fees are very expensive. I brought it up to Keene. How does a smaller district even afford these fees? So I'm going to get it on the agenda. It's not, I can't say it's official now, but I want it every 2-3 years. I'd like to see smaller districts or even larger districts have one on us, where they have one annexation, where they don't have fees for annexation. I would love to see that, to cut those fees. You guys have enough fees to deal with. You guys are feeding to death, regulated to death. Anyway, that's one of the things I would like to see, like to address, and other issues like that. I want you to always feel free to always call me on this. I will get back to you. If I don't pick up right away, I will get back to you.
Yay. Do we need to talk about?
Let's do a motion and a vote, because, you'll need to sign the ballot, check the right boxes. Well, staff recommendation, Willis and
Yes.
Drake.
So thinking about our fire change.
Yes.
Did you know that the residents took a vote, and 98%, which is unheard of in the vote, were in favor of moving from a local fire district to CAL FIRE? If Chief Hardcastle had been opposed to it for whatever reason, and 98% of the residents were in favor, what would you have done if that were your decision?
I think that would have come up on the agenda again. And, when they're struggling financially, that's really the key issue. And, I would say that more than likely we would have had that factor that they continue to have financial problems.
Meaning?
Meaning we would, I think that we would eventually probably vote to dissolve because of financial issues. Well, 98% tells you a lot of things.
I think there was a lot of regret on the part of our residents because, traditionally we've been independent. But I think the writing was on the wall in terms of,
Overwhelming vote.
Right.
yeah,
Nothing there
Well-
against 98%.
there were a lot of people that came into the meeting thinking, no way, we're going to keep our fire department. But when you see all the facts on the wall, and you realize what it would cost to modernize.
Right.
So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would have had that eventually as we saw.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Anyone like to make a motion for supporting or voting, I guess, for Mr. Willis and Mr. Drake? So, thank you. And
Second.
thank you. So, moved by Ms. Moran and seconded by Mr. Duncan. And is there any further discussion? Any discussion from the public? Any questions or comments from the public? It's really weird to look at the screen and like, hello. So if there is no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. We support you, Mr. Willis.
Thanks,
So,
all.
yes, thank you. Thank you for your service.
I'm going to turn around so I can see this around, stay on and hang around for a while.
Okay, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, on 2C, we have a proposal to support groundwater quality risk assessment update.
Yes,
There
Madam
you
President,
go.
I would love to introduce that item. So, obviously water quality is a big deal to BWD, both face of life, but then getting back to our core responsibility of ensuring potable water standards, that potable water standards are met. That's, I think right up there, water quality and fire protection are our two main responsibilities. That's right there at the top. So on the topic of water quality, I think it was Harry Ehrlich, probably Director Ehrlich, like 5+ years ago, who made a motion to increase the frequency of our sampling. And so we've done twice a year sampling for a number of years. And then we've had, obviously, as a water district, we have to comply with all the state and federal standards, primarily state standards here for water sampling. So we have a ton of data. And so I think in various discussions we've had about the water master, one topic has come up about the need for data, for the evaluation of data, and to analyze data, not just to create data, but also analyze it. So I'm sitting and thinking, well, we haven't done that ourselves lately. I think we did one of these projects similarly probably 6 years ago now, just right when I came on board. And so I'm thinking now is a good time for us to look at all the raw data that we've had from our laboratory reports for the 5 or 6 years in the interim. As Trey mentioned in this proposal, using previous reports and the data that was accumulated for the previous report and basically updating it to see if we have any alarming or concerning trends in water quality data in any of our potable water production wells. Super, super important. Now, obviously what's going on around us and neighboring wells that are real close to ours all matter, but I think once again, our core responsibility here is maintaining water quality. We obviously want to stay in front of any potential problem. Don't want to react when it's too late. So analyzing data at this point seems like to me to be the prudent next step. Okay. So we had Trey from his new group put together a proposal to provide that service for us. I selected Trey just because of his knowledge of the basin, the fact that he prepared this study a number of years ago, and seems to be the one guy who can cut to the chase and evaluate this data as effectively as anyone. So the proposal was in the packet, and I see Trey is, wow. Where are you today, sir? Switzerland? What is that? We had a call on Friday, and I thought he had like the Rome. I was on my phone. I thought he had like the Rome background behind him. They were all joking. No, are you in Rome? He was really in Rome. His kids and aunt were at the Coliseum at 10 at night, and yeah, it was crazy. So
nice.
he might really be there. So Trey, where are you?
Concern.
Where in the world is Trey?
I'm in Florence, Italy today.
It looks like they got a lot of rain there.
Wow, nice.
Anyway, Trey, thank you for joining us
Yes.
in the middle of the night or whatever time it is there. Why don't you just share the proposal? We'll ask some questions for you. To just start. So go for it.
Sure. Good morning, President Dice and board members. As Jeff indicated, this is an update of work that was done for a groundwater quality risk assessment performed in 2017 for the Borrego Water District. So since then, there's been considerable data collected both by the district and also by the now the water master and previously through the GSP process. So we're going to compile all that data. I have been in communication with the water master board. They will provide that data to us. It looks like it will be below the $500 fee. So I don't think there's going to be additional fees to get the data they've compiled to date. But that'll be the first task to review that data, make sure we have all the historical data compiled. It's been an issue on, I think, some previous evaluations by others where they have only looked at contemporaneous data and really not understood the entire historical record. So that's something we're going to keep a close eye on. And then we're going to use that data to perform updated concentration trend analysis and regression analysis, and finally prepare a technical memo and board presentation. The schedule is approximately 3 months. We have an extra month on here depending on when the board can include this on the agenda. With that, do you have any questions?
Questions from the board?
I'll just say that Diane and I, as a water quality committee, met with Trey and Jeff on Friday and discussed the proposal. And we support it, and think it's just a good add-on to what was done. I don't have any other questions.
I think it sounds to me like we're doing something that has been a concern for a while. And Diane, did you have a comment?
Yes,
Or a
I
question?
I very much support this, and I'm looking at the wording, Trey, of your task. Well, anyway, where you say that you'll offer mitigation, recommendation at task 3, recommendations for additional analysis and mitigation efforts. That sort of implies, I think, and that's my question, that you'll try to establish that there will be a threshold at which you'll say, and we'll agree or not as a board, a threshold where we start to say we need to be mitigating this. Is that right? And I guess I have a feeling that would probably open up a lot of questions with the rest of the board. So I don't know, maybe I don't have a question there. Maybe it's just a comment. What do you think?
Certainly, I think in cases where we see increasing trend for constituents of concern, that we're going to have to place a closer watch on that particular well. I think ID 418 in particular is one we're tracking closely, but certainly, we have our drinking water standards that we have to abide by, and we have through the historical record baseline concentrations for all the district wells. And when we start to see increasing trends, I think that certainly we have to understand that there may be need for mitigation in the future. So, I think often we'll look at half the MCL for a threshold, and maybe even a quarter of that in some cases where you have very low baseline conditions. But certainly it's something we will expand upon in the technical memorandum.
Thank you. That's good to hear those numbers have to quarter to a half of BMCL. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Trey? Yeah, go ahead.
So did Trey and Water Quality Committee, last time Trey was here, he was working on, sorry, third person Trey, you were working on 3 proposals for work. Did you all, did you review that with the Water Quality Committee? And
We reviewed 2, and apparently another one went to you and Dave and Jeff. So we
can you remind us, Trey, can you remind me, what were the 3? I forget.
Sure. With the Water Quality Committee, we reviewed this proposal presented to the board today. And then also we had a profiling proposal for well ID 418. The committee decided to kind of put that on hold right now. And we're going to probably rework that a little bit and maybe look at in the future a reduced cost for that effort. And then the third proposal is regarding the update of the sustainable yield. And that will be presented at a future board meeting for review and action.
But what, if I recall, he said that to you and Dave and Jeff.
We have. So then, my one other question is for Jeff and Jessica, which has to do with budget. Is this about $30,000 in the budget? Is it, where are we with the budget year? There's more coming. There's this one that I don't remember seeing yet. DUDEC, around the EDU thing, we mentioned earlier, there's going to be a DUDEC similar engineering study that I'm sure Jeff, Dave, and I will recommend that we do that. So a bigger picture is, and maybe we need to do a finance committee meeting to just talk about, can we afford this, right?
I was kind of assuming, and Jessica can obviously correct me on this, but there is some room in the water master budget for this. We're in pretty good shape in that area where we haven't had to spend the money we budgeted for the water master issues. So I believe that this particular study could be brought out of that part of our budget. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. The board did set aside in the current fiscal year budget about $72,000 for basically groundwater management projects that BWD wants to take on its own independent of the water master. And to date, we have spent none of that budget. So there is room there for this year. And then anything going into next year, we're working on.
That was definitely a question that I needed to answer for myself. So I thought, well, this is that.
That's a question that the Water Quality Committee itself had about, can we afford it? We talked about a couple other studies and that maybe they were a little unaffordable, so we're working on the scope of work for those. But I think to me, getting back to kind of our core responsibilities, water quality is right there at the top of the list. We don't think we have any I don't think we have any problems with water quality, but this is so important.
And it's something that we've talked about both here and at the water master in terms of wanting to do something with the data we've been collecting. And I think this is a really important type of work, scope of work, and I would support. Personally, I support the idea of support this being done and using the money that we set aside in the water master budget to finance it.
Yeah, we all are looking at affordability, not just every consultant proposal that's approved. But this one seems to be really, really important compared to even some of the others.
Does anyone have any questions or motions?
Yes, I move that we approve that.
I second. Any discussion? Questions? All right, if there are none, is there any comment from the public out there in Zoom land? Hearing no one muting, I will call for the question. All in favor of approving the scope of work for Trey? Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimously approved. Thank you. Thank you, Trey. Go forward.
Enjoy Italy.
Go look at some art.
Yeah, really.
Florence was pretty good for that.
Where, you're in Florence right now? Oh, great.
Had some nice shoes there, but they were really uncomfortable. Leather things with like no padding on them, but yeah.
Yeah, but they look nice. Right?
Yeah.
So.
I say in my closet, dusty.
Florence was my favorite city, so I hope you'll enjoy it.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Trey. Thank you, Trey.
Yeah, well,
It's easy to do.
there's a lot of canals there. So section two, or item
Yes,
2,
moving right along.
E would be the letter of support for
I
the
think we're
county.
gonna do
Oh, no.
2D.
Sorry, D,
Yes.
and moving right along too fast.
So,
Board of Directors Annual Calendar and Agenda Development Schedule.
Director Moran made a request a month or so ago. Keep up a important step for kind of public input, generally speaking, would be for the water master to publish a calendar. Then kind of publish the agenda development schedule. And I think that was nothing to just get ourselves. So, and then Gina suggested that we put one together. And so we did. Thank you very much, Esmeralda. So in the packet should be the calendar for the rest of the year. I just didn't have the water master meetings to it. Seemed like we were only talking about BWD, but since it's only one a month and it's so important and the water master is us. That's correct.
Yes.
But yeah, I put it on my calendar. And then at the bottom, it kind of backtracks from the day of the meeting when various agenda key dates occur. For getting the information to Esma, getting the original agenda ideas to me, that kind of stuff. So that would be our calendar for the rest of the year.
Do we need to put anything in there about the standing committees and time and timing for like the budget or the audit or anything else that happens on an annual basis? Is there any need? Do you feel any need for that? Go ahead, Diane.
I'm thrilled that this was done. I wonder if we could add judges conference information. That would have to come from BB&K. And when there are reports due, there's like backing up a month to be able to do comments, et cetera. And then,
A water master, you mean?
no, well, I was about to add that too. Yeah, this would be judges conferences, which I think are twice a year. Well, and can be called in addition, I think. But also, Dave, I was looking through the minutes. We were going to ask the water master if they could do a production calendar.
I was going to do that. I just wanted to get our house in order first, so I was planning to do that now. I'm not quite sure the best way to do it.
Well, coincidentally, the water master has projected out, and I don't remember in what format that came, whether it was an email to the general public or something on the website, but Sam
I
actually
think they were
did
gonna
kind of-
post it. I think they were gonna post it on the website,
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's there yet.
I don't know how much more detail, you expect, but it has begun a process of giving people a heads up.
Thanks.
Okay, so we will post this little rascal on the agenda. Thank you, Esmeralda.
Are we adding the budget and audit?
I
Let me answer your question.
Well, do you think, our board, do you think that that's something that should be on this production calendar, or is it fine the way it is? I just
I
brought
like
it up.
budget and audit because it's audit. I mean,
Well,
that's a very strict
It's,
schedule.
right, it's kind of something that there's a time to begin it, and then there's a time to approve it by. So I kind of think that it's important to note that. Would everyone agree to that? Could you add that?
Yeah.
Ask Esmeralda, Jessica to work
Jessica would
on.
know what those dates are. She
Yeah.
would ask.
And may I also suggest adding deadlines for elections and things like that? I know
Oh, that's excellent.
those kind of get forgotten about.
Oh, the Form 730? The conflict of
Form
interest.
700.
700, sorry.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest.
Getting the tax fund things we do every year. There's a list we could make staff, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be really helpful. Because those are things we tend to suddenly remember.
Too
What
late.
needs to happen.
Yeah, too late.
And on that subject, I hope everyone has taken the time to file their 700. Almost is the deadline. Well, thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that because I think for me, seeing those things, in black and white really helps.
Now that we're adding more meat to the bone, more dates, we might put together a real calendar, like, I didn't want to put together a calendar and have 2 meetings on it a month. It seemed kind of.
Like a physical.
Yeah, so we might transition into a real calendar.
That would be great.
Or maybe both. We'll have that around.
We'll add the judgment, please.
The judges conference.
Conference, yeah, that'd be great.
Anything that involves us,
Town hall?
well, we kind of
Don't know.
float that one, don't we?
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's good for now.
Oh, and we need to start.
Oh, when we know the dates, put it on the calendar.
Okay, that's a good idea, and also like when we have to start the 218 process. Okay, I know, makes my head hurt. Okay, thank you to Esmeralda for putting that together, and now we can keep adding to the skeletal. Okay, now it's item 2E, the letter of support for the County of San Diego Department of Conservation Block Grant.
Yeah, so the Department of Conservation is administering another grant. The same process happened last year, and I forget all the exact numbers. There's not a lot of money statewide available, so I think there are like 3 projects that get selected, but there's a lot of money available per project. There's like $8-point-something million per project is the upper limit. So, and these are called a block grant. So typically a larger agency will accept the money and then administer the grant on behalf of the smaller guys and gals, like the kind of like the sub-grantee agreement we have with our so the County of San Diego, Jim Bennett and Leanne Crow, they've spoke at 1 or 2 of the last meetings about this, and the county's going to pursue the grant. I looked at it and I was hoping that there'd be in bright red letters, money for water right acquisition. It really does kind of get back to the restoration payments for restoring land, which isn't quite there, but once again, if we can get some help with maybe some of our fallowing costs with our pending property acquisitions, or maybe even additional restoration. I'm also still looking at the California Wildlife Board for possible funding for some of the fallowing and restoration expenses. So the County of San Diego is going to pursue the grant, and they asked for a letter of support. We did the exact same letter of support last year with the county. But last year we really didn't plan on being part of the process, but this year we are part of the process and might even have come up with a specific project that would be part of the ultimate submission by the county. So we don't need any details yet. We don't need to tell them exactly what we're asking for. We're at the letter of support stage of this part of the process. So in the packet was the standard letter of support. And I think Mr. Bennett would like to find all these documents later today, so I promised to text him. You've already sent him the same version. So please approve this. Yeah. Text him when you guys vote and make sure that he's got the
TMI.
Yeah. So please, with a strong staff recommendation. So staff recommends just approving the letter, and it will be included in the packet that ultimately gets submitted to the state. And then you'll be hearing from us in the near future about what specific projects we might recommend to include as part of this.
All right. Let's see.
Well, we approved support of the original submission. I don't know why that we would not support this submission.
We might even have a project in this one. Last year, we kind of didn't have, we were in a different, place back then. We had dreams of maybe having some land someday, but
Here we
wow,
are.
how a year has changed.
I second that.
That was that was a motion.
A motion to send this letter of support to the county. And it's seconded by Director Baker. So, any other discussion, questions? Any comments from the public? Out there.
And Jim and Land were both busy today. I did say, hey, can you stick around in case there's any questions or something? And they said, oh, unfortunately, we're busy.
That's okay. I think, like you said, we've done this before.
I
We've
just,
been in this rodeo before.
I just have one comment. I've noticed is like on this district, grant writing is a skill in and of itself.
Yes.
It's something that,
We got 9 million in 1 year this last year, 9 million in grants. Been really fortunate.
We have, I mean, for a tiny district, we've done quite a lot. And I hope we continue in that direction. So if there are no other questions or comments, I will call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. You may go ahead and send the letter, Jeff.
Let me get my phone here. 1 second. It's cool.
Okay. Let's see, where are we? Let's go down to 2F, the
Ready to
notice to award to Grave Drilling.
Great.
Yeah, for the wastewater treatment plant monitoring wells.
Speaking of grants, part of our 68 grant was 200 and something thousand total for monitoring wells for the wastewater treatment plant. Duke Engineering helped us with the plans, specifications, bidding process. That all happened over the past few months. The project was bid, I'd say about a month ago. Grave Drilling was the one bidder, and it was 171,000 and change, which is around almost 30,000 higher than the engineer's estimate. Okay, so in our grant and the drilling line item says 140 something, but it really should be 170. So I have sent an email to Chris and Kelly at EWR saying, can we transfer from one project to the other? Now, in my mind, that's what they were asking us to do for the last 2 months, because remember we had the real short schedule, and so the water master wanted to move some things around, so they were doing that. So we want to do it now just based on the fact that the bids did come in, and it's $30,000 higher. So I'm asking EWR if we can move 30,000 out of our 1.3 million from the meter reading infrastructure project over to the drilling project.
And that
If they say no, then we'll take $30,000 out of our reserves to make up the difference, but hopefully they will say yes.
And that leaves enough for your other project?
Yeah, it's 1.3 million. We don't know yet. We're
I guess
almost have the
$30,000 is a
proposal.
drop in the bucket.
Right. But I figured why not ask, because we might not spend 1.3 million on the metering. I don't know, but at least we know for sure we need some extra money on the bid line item on our wastewater treatment plant monitoring wells. So bids were received. BB&K, our legal counsel, reviews all of our bid packets for us to make sure they're responsive. And this bid was responsive. They typed out the amount in words instead of numbers somewhere, and the attorney felt that is not an irregularity worth throwing their bid out. They either put in a number when they should put in words or vice versa. The number's in there. So that's not worth kicking them out. So legal counsel recommends awarding the contract. Okay. So the proposed board action for today is award the contract. We then send the notice to proceed to the contract. The notice to proceed says you now must provide us with your performance bond, bid bond, insurance certificate. Oh, it's in the notice. Yeah, it was in the notice. It's in the attachment.
Right.
So we tell the contractor what we need, and they have 2 weeks. I think it was to. Sorry, I don't know. I'm looking at you, Jessica. Yeah, I wrote it.
10 days. 10 days.
Yeah. 10 days. Okay, so they have 10 days to provide all that information. Then our attorneys review it like they do on every project and say, yeah, those bid bonds and that performance bond and that insurance certificate looks good. And then we say, okay, the contract's awarded, and then they have 180 days to complete the project. Contractor's ready, contractor's in a good way bugging me, hey, when are you gonna get this? So they're ready to go, they're happy to see this notice of award on our agenda, they're anxiously waiting the notice to proceed, and actually already starting to put together the information that we're gonna ask for, hopefully, as soon as you approve that. Before the board actually.
We've used Greg drilling before.
You know, believe it or not, we have not personally, except they were the TSS well driller that was just out here last week.
Okay. Well, I remember they were.
Yeah, we have, I forget where our drillers are, but Southwest
That's right.
Drilling was the one.
And they did not bid.
So, yeah, so it's kind of good, the same well driller that did the work out here, they worked out well, the well got completed, the cat's on the well with the locks, and there's keys in my office, allegedly.
Mr. Duncan.
So I have a question, so we're clear, then the easement and right of entry has all been concluded with T2.
Yes, that is a load of work for Tammy,
We'll have to request
who had to take a vacation.
all easements,
Yes.
we'll have to request entry to do the work, but it's just also implementation of
And Alan, you're okay with, you like Greg drilling, okay?
Wow, they seem to have all the tools and experience to do the thing.
And this is a lot smaller project, and we're not going anywhere near as deep, and the holes are smaller, and there's more of them, but we're not as deep.
It's a lot simpler process.
Trey was saying this eight or 900,000 was what Greg received to drill the TSS well. Because they went to what, 800, whatever.
No, it's 700.
And this is 142 different wells in section.
Go ahead.
Bringing up the easement, fond memories that I have. Alan, we talked about when David Hill was here, having the surveyor come out and mark the corners for the construction easement, because it's not, the wells are not in the center of the construction easement. They're a little bit offset. There's plenty of space, but they're not logically in the center, and so that it was very important to T2 that we avoided certain areas. And so the discussion with Kakinoki was that we would bring back our surveyor to put really clear stakes in. So they.
Could be a Roy issue.
And just a little
we'll
reminder,
do it.
I guess for Alan, for you and Jeff, it's like, we made that agreement with T2 because the wells are not in the center of the construction square. That it just made it really obvious to Greg where they can put their trucks and where they can't.
Right.
Okay. So that's fairly easy to.
Yeah, that's for Jeff, that's just a comment.
Yes.
Since we talked easements, I remember
Yes,
that.
it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, things surface. Okay, any other questions or comments? Any comments from the public? All right, is anyone in favor, anyone like to make a motion on this?
I'll move to
Accept. To approve the award to Greg. Yes. Okay, and is anyone going to second that?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so any
It's
other?
so hard to get us to speak up, it's
I
unbelievable.
know, it's like.
Now it's your turn, you second now.
If there are, is there any other discussion? If there's not a discussion, I will call the question. And the question is, all in favor of awarding Greg Drilling the contract for the wastewater treatment and monitoring wells, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. We are awarding this to Greg Drilling. Excellent. Okay. 2G is the Borrego Sub-Basin Water Master Board. We haven't had a meeting since the last time.
Now, there's nothing new to report. However, as some of you may recall, the meeting was moved up to accommodate the filing with the annual report in a timely fashion and the water quality monitoring plan as well. Those will be on the agenda. Also, there will be an agenda item to amend the budget to accommodate for the uncertainty in the reimbursements from DWR on the Prop 68 funds. I will not be at the meeting. Kathy will be there in my stead. And hopefully that everything goes smoothly. I received this morning, I don't know if you've seen my email yet.
I don't think so,
But there is a proposal to amend the budget. There was some controversy last time that if the funds were delayed, which given DWR's history are very likely, that could put the water master in some sort of financial difficulty. So I have not read yet through the proposal that just arrived this morning prior to this meeting. But hopefully we can find a way to not dip funds below zero, which was not anticipated, but given DWR's history, in terms of timely reimbursements, particularly on the first submission, could be more than 90 days. And originally the kind of the dip in the budget for 90 days was a doable thing, but what happens if it's extended past 90 days? So that's probably not the most critical thing that's on the agenda for April 6th. That's that.
In our last BWD meeting, we discussed the previous water master meeting, and I had not attended the water master meeting because I was flying that day, so I just finished listening to all the recording. And there was some enthusiasm in this group about the water master and their actions that they're taking. And having listened to the water master meeting, I didn't catch why there was a sort of new enthusiasm or support for the water master. What did I miss in the recording that mostly Kathy, you and Dave, you felt much better about the water master? And I missed
I think it was and to me it was Andy.
It was
Andy's report. What was going to happen as part of the groundwater monitoring plan and water optimization study and future annual reports. And I think a lot of our comments were really about, you need to analyze the data, you need to analyze the data, you need to analyze the data. And he's saying, we're going to analyze the data.
And we need to formulate an action.
Yeah, and do an action.
And we felt that we had been heard. And
His presentation
there was a
seemed
response to that.
seemed to address most, I didn't want to say all, almost all. I can't think of any that weren't addressed, but I'm sure they didn't get all of them, almost all of our concerns.
So just a quick request, Dave. I noticed the minutes haven't been posted for water master meetings since November. I know.
This falls on Shannon's shoulders.
Right.
They need to be signed by Shannon, and Shannon has not been very timely in terms of signing his. Not that they've not been created and they're not ready to post, but they need his signature as secretary. And he's not done that. And I know he's been prompted.
Could be would it be worth BWD Jeff writing and saying we'd like, and by the way, and thank you that the presentations are now recorded and they're there. That's a good thing. I know you asked for that. And
it is a good thing.
The other comment that I wanted to make about what we were just talking about, that we felt like we were heard, we then need to watch how these plans get inserted into the budget, into the water master budget, because that's where the pedal meets the metal. And
well, that's where the pushback always is.
Right.
Yeah. The reality. Right. You're right. We need to pay attention. That's the bottom line.
But I don't think that the BWD needs to do something. I can shoot off an email to Sam about the minutes that we haven't posted since November. serious going into April. You know, let's get this done.
Yeah.
And I could CC Shannon on that as well. I have no problem doing that.
Any other questions for Dave? Comments? Trey's still with us. Trey, are you still there? Do you have anything to update us on the tech? Or the TSS monitoring well?
Yes, President Dice. We submitted our comments on the groundwater monitoring plan. This is a living document, so we need to work proactively with Water Master staff moving forward on it. In particular, advocating for additional data collection for the North Management Area. So obviously the TSS well is now installed. It still needs to be developed and sampled, but that will be a new monitoring point in the basin for water quality. And then next, work with Borrego Water District for the collection of additional data for the wells that were recently acquired by BWD for the baseline pumping allocation. And then also working with the Water Master for existing wells to be modified by the grant for water quality collection. So that's what we've got going on the monitoring plan front. And then on the redetermination of the sustainable yield, as I mentioned earlier, we submitted a scope and fee to complete validation of the basin characterization model recharge estimates. That will be presented at a future board meeting for review and action. And we need to start working proactively with BWD staff and board to start our independent review of the sustainable yield, which is due by 2025. So that's what we've got going on the TAC front these days.
Comments?
Trey, given your understanding of the monitoring plan, the TAC has, tell me if this is right, the TAC has to approve the addition of new wells.
The TAC doesn't necessarily have to approve the addition of existing new wells, but as part of any new well drilling, those are intended to go through the TAC process, yes.
So is it fair to conclude that it's possible to get the new wells that BWD has access to, that Dave talked about in the last Water Master meeting up in the North Management Area, to get those samples in this spring's monitoring event done by the Water Master?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They're going to be out there, I think, fairly quickly. We'd have to move fast on that in terms of incorporating that information for the spring of 2023. I think certainly it's doable by the fall, but I can work with Jeff and the Water Master on that. Certainly, I think something that needs to be done long term is maybe, because I know the Water Master Board is very cost sensitive, is potentially a redistribution of the wells that are sampled. We have a lot of wells fairly close to one another in the South Management Area that maybe not need to be sampled at the same frequency. I think there needs to be more of a focus on North Management Area wells. So certainly it's something we can work with Water Master staff to determine whether or not these new wells could be added to the network.
So I started communicating, didn't want to get the cart before the horse, but I'd say probably a month ago with Andy about, hey, it's looking like the district will soon have access to a handful of our wells. What's the process for including these wells into the Water Master network? And Andy said, well, if you can provide me with specific well-related data, driller's log, blah, 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 GPS location, they can start the evaluation. So I've asked for that information from the property owners, and they're going to give it back to me soon. So to get to your question of specifically, can we sample now? I received an email from Sam and her crew last week, saying, hey, when we come out to do the spring sampling, can we meet you at the Bower wells just to look at them, just to do an initial assessment of the well, just to do a site tour while we're out there. And within 2 hours, somebody fired back saying, no, we don't have time to do that. So, yeah, the water master will be out here soon, but they just did not have time in their schedule to neither sample nor even just look at the well. So, but we are communicating. Now, BWD can do something as the property owner at any time. We're not quite there yet. Some agreements have been signed, not all agreements have been signed yet, so we don't have all the rights and accesses that we would need sitting here right now, but within the next few weeks we should. So unfortunately, it sounds like no, water master can't add it to the sampling this time, but that doesn't say that we couldn't do something in May or June. Because the good news is they're all production wells, so they're all running. We don't need to take out a generator and sump pump and run it for so many hours and blah, 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 blah. I mean, these wells are running, so it would be fairly easy to pull a sample compared to a lot of the other wells that we're monitoring now.
I think that would be worthwhile with the idea that it would get added to the water master plan.
Yep. So I started to put the wheels in motion a month or so ago, to try to get it, but it just wasn't quite fast enough. And we're just not quite there.
Bravo to
with
you, Jeff, for
data.
trying to catch, you lose 6 months, right? The whole John Peterson thing, you lose 6 months. But thank you for trying.
And we can still sample ourselves.
But we have to get the water master to accept it. Right. But we can sample.
But we can do it.
But,
Yeah.
we'll know
Yep.
we'll know where we're at. And then, I realize, that, the wheels of bureaucracy, even a water master bureaucracy turns slower than we would like somehow.
And ironically, the new well is 50 feet from the front gate of one of the farms we're on. It's right next door. Yeah. So we have some good new saturation of well locations in the northern management area popping up there. Real close, we'll get a much better feel of what's going on.
Diane?
And in connection with that, talking with Trey last week, we also determined, I think, that BWD can sample at the new monitoring well, the brand new one, MW6, right? If we want to do additional constituents that we want to test for, that's
your purview, right?
We're the owner, so I think we can do whatever we want with our well. Yeah, it's not just turn on the faucet. This is bring out the pump, the generator, fire it up, run so many hours, run so many well volumes to clear out the well. It's a whole process, but anything's possible. But it might be easier just to have at one of our new wells, fill up the bottles that way, right next door.
They're so close.
Yeah.
I also wanted to report that that Andy Malone has called together people tomorrow to start, like John Peterson and Martha and Mark Jorgensen, to start talking about accessing additional wells and getting them monitored.
Awesome.
So that's happening.
Does BWD own the equipment to put a pump and have a generator and to actually do a sample?
No. Yeah, huge, big generators and big pumps, and this might be a little.
We're working on purchasing a smaller 15 to 20 kW generator. I'm getting pricing on that right now. Jessica said we do have it on the budget. So that would be a big step. The other step would be the equipment to drop a pump down the hole to grab the samples. We do have something that Roy's used in the past, but I'm not sure if it's adequate. But we'll look into that.
But they are, as part of it, as part of the well construction, a set of samples are being run now, this week. Now, it's not for the whole A to Z constituents that we would like to see. It's only for a limited number of constituents, but sampling is happening on the TSS well as part of the well construction. We'll get some lab reports back in the next month or so, coming out of that new month. What happens after that? Up to us. It's done. Thanks, great.
any other questions or comments for Trey? Thank you very much and enjoy Italy.
Thank
Keep
you.
enjoying Italy.
Thanks, Trey.
Let's move into section 3, which is board committee reports as needed. Standing committee, I think I saw Jessica's email just this morning. Maybe we can stay after the meeting a couple minutes to try and figure out the next date for a budget meeting. So we are looking at increasing costs on some areas of our budget, so
So the
not
committee,
our fault.
committee met once.
Yes,
So
we've
we're
already
gonna
met.
incorporate the committee's comments and
Yeah.
answer some questions that we have in
Right.
terms of kind
We
of
had-
big line items, SDG increases and
Fuel.
health insurance
Health
increases.
insurance.
We're a couple whoppers,
Things
so
that, yeah, so
fine tuning.
Jessica's been working on answering some of our inquiries, and our next meeting will look at some new numbers probably.
And then kind of after that, it's bring it to the board, right?
We're getting
We just
close.
had it twice, yeah.
Jessica had done so much work in advance, but we're all kind of working around the fringes of the proposal, so thank you, Jessica. We will come up with a date in April to meet again for the committee. Are there any other committee reports? Tammy?
More questions, whether we need to have, so Prop 68 implementation.
Yeah.
Jeff, you mentioned that we have asked DWR to build it for $8,000. It reminds me that DWR asked DWD and all our subgrantees to make one fell swoop change.
That's what I was mentioning.
Yeah.
They asked us to do that once before, but that was a month ago, so.
You know where we are on that? I have two questions. This is my first question. Whether all our sub-grantees and whether the water master has finished all their stops and then we do that one thing?
I would say the water master technically has not yet, right? Because that whole decision, or did they say go ahead and proceed? They said go ahead and
Sam
proceed.
asked me to go ahead and submit it, so I have submitted to Chris all schedule and budget change requests from all sub-grantees. That was almost a month ago, and I have heard nothing back except that I can start sending them deliverables, which is kind of a separate subject, but I don't know, Jeff was gonna poke him this week. I don't think he's responded yet.
I can send him some new stuff.
Mhm.
Oh my.
Or a notice of exemption.
Did we have to wait to implement for the approval of the big rearrange or people? We signed all the contracts with DWRs, everything is signed and done?
Mhm.
And so this whole rearrange was not stopping any grant eligible work.
Correct. But we still need the green light, thumbs up, in my personal opinion, from DWR to say, yes, these changes are.
And then
So they're
BWD,
working on the parts that have already been approved.
and so now BWD has one more.
Right, I wish they would have thought us, we just didn't know what the deadlines were gonna be.
And then the other question I have is listening to the water master meeting and their concerns about their financial cash flow and rejiggering and delaying the start of things. And I don't know, this is just a question I'm sure to ask of it. If the water master isn't able to do all the work in the time because they, for whatever reasons, have pushed off and run out of time, so they don't use their full grant amount, what's the implication of that? And is there anything that we, as DWD, needs to do as the grantor, the grantor to alleviate the possibility that the water master won't use all their funds, which is true for all the other sub-grantees too. I only know because I've listened to water master meetings. Do we have to do anything to ensure that all the money is spent by our sub-grantees?
Good question.
I just would imagine that if they leave money on the table, it goes into the second round.
Yeah.
I'll ask, that's a good
I'm
question.
pretty sure I remember Steve saying a year ago probably, that if you don't spend all the money, you just give it back to the WR.
I thought that was bad.
I was gonna say, I think they're not super happy because then they have to figure out
What to do
how to
with that
spend
money.
it in their legislative timeframe, right?
Could be a bad reflection on us next time we ask for a grant. That's my question, right?
About the future impacts, I'm not quite sure it would have any. But to make sure that all the money is spent within the allowable schedule is important. Watermaster seems to be on top of it. I know Land IQ is doing some work. It's not like the Watermaster is waiting until they get all the final yeses and blessings from DWR. That work has begun. Obviously, Travis Hutzman has begun his work. He's already doing a report on the technical memo and, just signed their agreement. Yeah, so everybody's still working on it. So we're just waiting. Once again, getting the final answer from DWR is
And we have one of the
always
most
been
complicated,
interesting.
we have one of the most complicated grants in terms of Prop 68 because of all the sub-grantees. So I think there's room to be forgiven and something that if money is left on the table, it won't be huge amounts. Diane?
I am personally a little concerned about the stewardship council spending all of its money. And I wanted to bring up something about that. And also the school. I think the person who is going to work on that is no longer at the school district, for example. And I don't remember her name, but Martha is going to be stepping in, but that'll be hours of work 80 through 100 for Martha every week. But on the stewardship council grant, and this fits under a report on outreach, I think, and sort of more Prop 68. The stewardship council is planning a general meeting of its membership and anyone else who wants to come on April 10th, I think it is, and would like a report on the Prop 6, on BWD's Prop 68 grant canopy. So I've been saying that either you or I would do that. But I really need to call and talk to you about that.
So I'm not, okay. I'm not aware where they're at.
It'll be in the library and an open house meeting. And
I think it's April 12th.
it's
April 12th,
Okay.
Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah, and it's at 5:30 in the library.
Great.
I think they'll also have online.
Yes.
Well, that'll, I guess I need to be up to speed on being informed about where BBSC is. Any other Prop 68 comments?
Madam President, can I put in a plug?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, thank you. So I think this was kind of covered already by Jessica, but just to reiterate, maybe the water master would be the focus of this, is that the DWR grant with BWD says that none of these projects can proceed until CEQA is done. And CEQA the CEQA document, whatever it is, even if it's a one-page notice of exemption, needs to be passed by DWR before you bring your start on your project so they can bless it. And then depending on the circumstances, the BWD board needs to adopt that CEQA document. And so we've prepared one for the Stewardship Council, but what we put in the subgrant agreements was, number one, the school district is a public agency, so they do their own CEQA, so they need to know to do that. And the water master is a quite sophisticated outfit, and so they need to prepare their CEQA document for all of their projects, and then in draft form, and then present it to us so we can look it over, and then it needs to go to the state before the BWD board adopts it. So there's a whole process here. And on the one hand, it's not that difficult, and the state should be able to quickly bless these documents, I would hope, but at the same time, the state is busy. And so when the water master says, oh, everything's been held up, I mean, one of the aspects that's within their control is to prepare their draft CEQA documents on each one of their projects. And frankly, from my perspective, most of their projects, the paperwork projects, you'd call them, the one they're doing in an office, like updating models and stuff, that's an exemption. They can do that in 20 minutes. They know how to do it. They should just finish that. And then the projects they're going to do work on the ground, that might be a little bit more involved for the CEQA, because that's when you actually have physical environmental impacts, and they need to look at that more carefully. But I think it might be worthwhile, and sorry if I'm pointing at Dave, for you to remind your water master staff that they need to pump those out and send them to us so we can submit them to the state. Otherwise, they're just going to delay themselves even further. They're going to get even more behind on their cash flow issues, and it's a pretty straightforward thing for them to do. Unless I've missed it, I haven't seen their CEQA documents in draft yet. So just a plug.
So there's a CEQA required for even just doing things that aren't in that on the ground. They're just, documents and meetings and other things. You have to do a CEQA with that.
Yeah, you have to say that you're exempt, right? Unless the state tells us otherwise, which they have not to date, then you have to say, look, there are these exemptions in CEQA. There's no physical impacts here, so we hereby find that this project is exempt. You have to go through the process of saying that we're exempt. And I know it sounds self-evident, particularly for the Stewardship Council case, but that's what the grant agreement says. CEQA has to be done. This is public money. We, BWD, are a public agency. The state is a public agency, so it has to be completed. And unless we get an email from our state contact that says, hey, on these projects, don't worry about CEQA. It's so obvious that there's no CEQA impacts, that you're good. Unless we get an email like that, which we have not to date, then we have to go through the process of doing an exemption or whatever else on each one of these components. So
we are planning to do all of that. What
Or-
Steve's talking about.
Or
Bringing back for our projects, for every project, every sub-grantee,
So
we
you'll
will
take
be
care of the
bringing back the
Stewardship
CEQA
Council and the
documents.
school.
Yeah. And then to me, this gets back to communicating with our sub-grantees.
Okay.
We don't want them to fail, we don't want them to fall behind, so.
So technically, they're not supposed to go forward with their projects until CEQA is done? And approved?
right. And we can't adopt the CEQA that they give us until the state first blesses it, because the state has to be satisfied with that CEQA and say, yep, we think that's good. BWD, go ahead and adopt it. So there's a chain of command here. You have to go through like 5 steps
And
to
yet
get it
Jessica
done, and that's why it'll take a while. Thanks.
Yet Jessica is turning in documentation at the same time. This is really odd.
Well,
No, but we've completed our CEQA. We've already sent our notice of exemption for our wastewater treatment plant monitoring most of the state. And then Travis sent his. We had one other environmental document I thought that we sent to Chris.
yeah, Travis.
Yep, Travis.
And then the school said they were working on it, but I haven't seen anything yet.
So the big plan is 2 weeks from today, we'll have whatever CEQA documents are left to get through, plus all that procurement stuff we've been talking about. How many of these contracts are going to be sole source, or identify those, explain why they're sole source. Just to go on record, so all that's happening in 2 weeks.
So you're in contact with Civic Well about, for that grant, to do the CEQA stuff? They know.
They already did their end. We had BBK provide the actual documents. And I've been talking to Deanna, and she wants to come and, be present at the meeting if you guys have any questions for them on that next meeting.
Good. All right. Well, that's a revelation for me. Not used to doing CEQAs for future projects. So I know that Tammy saw on the ad hocs that we have some corrections here. Do you want to go through those, Tammy? On the list here, it's not quite correct.
Right, so in E, ad hoc E, we changed the name from develop a policy to develop our agreement. Remember? And then we terminated, I guess, number G. That project finished.
That one's done.
Which is really the easements, that one, we declared victory and put that right in.
Good. All right. And any other reports from ad hoc? All right, let's go down to section 4, the monthly financial and operations reports. Go, Jessica.
All right. I guess I'll come over here with the general manager. Staff report here. All right, so.
Hot seat.
So,
Yes.
in your packet is financial reports for February. At the end of February, we had just over 8.5 million in cash and bond funds in the bank. Next report, you'll see another bank account here. I went ahead and opened an account for the grant funds. As per the terms of the grant, it's supposed to be a non-interest bearing account. So Wells Fargo set that up for us, and we did have to put $100,000 balance in it just so we don't incur fees. But you'll see that on the next report. Going through our budget analysis for the month. As you know, we've had a lot of people coming through town, and our commodity water rate sales were about 161,000. And our total water rate revenues was about 295 for the month, so a little bit over our anticipations. Let's see, anything else fun happened? So total revenues were 365,000, and then looking at our expenses, things were pretty nominal. We did have one of our SCADA PCs crash. It had the power supply went bad, and we just decided to replace the whole thing. So that's why there's an extra couple grand in the telemetry section. On our legal, Steve and BPD and Kay have been working on these BPA agreements for land purchases. So we put about 14,000 towards that, which went over our general legal services budget. But those will eventually get capitalized in the cost of the sale, so it won't necessarily hit our expenses at the end of the year. Everything else pretty normal. Our net income was 109,000 for February, and we did not do much work on any cash-funded CIP projects. All the crew and all of our money was spent on the grant-funded items. So we have been going full speed ahead on the tank and motor grant items. And then also getting some legwork done on the Prop 68 grant. The administrative cost there is time from BB&K, also staff time that can get reimbursed for that. So in our cash flow, we did have a net change in cash positive of 160,000. Our accounts payable did grow, but we'll get caught up on that this month. Then you have a list of all of our payments made in February, the disbursement claims, and then any checks posted to February are there. And our groundwater, water master related expenses. So we have Trey's team for Interra. We did get a refund from Dudek. We had a retainer with them previously for Trey's time on the TAC, but now that he's with Interra, Dudek gave us our money back. And then the last item I have in there is just a recap of the bulk water sales for the Ocotillo Solar Project that was in the latest edition of the Borrego Sun. So Alan last read the meter. Actually, there's been one since, but this was, this is March. No, this is the last one. So March 20th. They've used almost 31 acre feet of the 40 that we committed to them. So probably another month or so, and they might be getting to the point of that. And then maybe people won't ask us questions. Does the board have any questions on February finances?
Yes, I have one question.
Yes.
We have budgeted under groundwater legal expenses. So beyond last month, where are we in terms of what we budgeted, what we have actually spent?
So We budgeted 150,000. At the end of February, we were at 29. There's still some room there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
So on the water master expenses again, does it show in here somewhere that we budgeted 150,000? I couldn't find any water master budget, just this list of expense. On
Right,
page
so
52.
on the, I don't know what page it is in the packet, but when you look at the budget analysis pages, so the first one is income, then we have our expenses, and then the last section of the expenses is groundwater management.
Oh,
And then that shows, so the far left column shows what our budget was for the year.
Right.
So that's where you find all the budgeted amounts. So for, engineering and then TAC, we budgeted 50, which we did go over. Legal was 150. Groundwater management expense is kind of for board projects, so that would be like that water quality proposal that we haven't used any of that budget yet. And then the pumping fees, we're still waiting on our second annual assessment, which would bring us up to about 52,000, and that leaves 48,000 in the budget in case the water master does want to do another assessment.
So just looking at the further down page that pulled out the groundwater expenses, it looked, I just did a ratio, and it looked like if we kept up at the same pace of spending, we'd be spending about 162,000. Having spent already about 108, I think. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
We are, yes, and the detail does include groundwater management income as well, which would be when we bill the water master for meter reading or stipulation stuff, that was all last fiscal year.
Also, there's transducer downloads that are going to coincide with their testing events, or their sampling events also, so there'll be a little additional staff costs in that.
Yeah, so we're tracking all the staff time that we do for them, and then, yeah, their reimbursements are included here, but it's not much at all compared to the whole bag.
So have we concluded the reimbursements to BWD from the water master for the original cost?
They have all been billed. In terms of receipts, there are still some outstanding. We just got a check this last week from the water master. We're getting pretty close. But I know Sam's on the delinquent parties. As much
Well, I
as she
signed a check,
can be.
so we're out of their cage.
Yeah.
Happy to sign another one.
Any other questions for Jessica? Thank you. So now we have the water and wastewater operations reports. So you have a staff report for us, Roy?
I sent it to this brother.
Yes, you did. So everything's good.
So basically everything is normal, like wastewater, it's a repeat process every day, just that. This month it's getting a little crazy.
Take care.
So this month is getting a little crazy for a week at least. I've been having between 102 and 116 every day. So, we've been having a lot of people in town.
Yeah.
So that's part of the revenue that you were talking. So I'm hoping that I can get some of that revenue from the wastewater. Since I need the water.
Hey, sewer rates are static, so, sorry.
And
We're making you work hard.
yeah. So what I'm doing right now, I'm running with 2 purifiers because there's a lot of water and I have to keep it out. So I'm running both, and sometimes I stop one, let it settle, I send it out, and waste it, and then do the process again. So it's just like a 1 or 2 day process that I have to do it just to keep it out.
So super important with that renovation. Now both clarifiers are
Yeah,
fully functional, all pretty. They can both work. Really nice.
Your days are full, huh?
Well, you gotta do what you gotta
Full
do.
of what?
And a lot of times, it's not like I'm running around like a chicken without a head, but you just gotta know when to react. In the morning when the first thing that I see my SCADA, Well, like, oh, 109 yesterday, I'm like, I gotta be ready. So that's when I open the valve for the other clarifier, I let half of that go, and then if there's something else comes up, I don't have to worry about it because the plant will be able to hold it. Then, like, everything comes at once, and then if it overflows and goes to the final process, and now I have to stop the whole thing, and I have to pump it back, because I don't want to be in violation. So it's just, it's just a process that you gotta know what to do, and you gotta be able to react, like, hey, just by looking at the numbers, but in a daily basis, and then my flow meter that is in the entrance, I go and check it out like 3 or 4 times a day. If I see like 150 gallons a minute, I'm like, hey, I gotta do something. Because like, and it's just during the day. In the morning when I start, it's only like 5 to 10 gallons a minute at 6 in the morning when everybody's getting up. So.
Yeah, well, look at the traffic in town, and we know you're gonna be busy. Yes, Diane.
So like I'm imagining lunch is the busiest time at the restaurants.
Yeah.
And I guess the hotels are, how much longer after lunchtime do you see that?
By the time, I leave around 2, so by the time I'm leaving, that flow meter is still like 100 gallons a minute. Because what happened, like, we got so much gravity, and then after that, it backs up into the lift station, and then it pumps it out, and then it holds. And then it pumps it out, and then it holds. And eventually, I'm thinking that probably by 6 p.m., that's when it slows down again. Because that's when, like, a lot of the tourists that are in town, by then they gone.
Yeah.
I mean, this weekend, there was so many people over here, the whole weekend.
Well, the music festival and just flower games.
Yeah, and then, I guess we in the news, there are so many flowers, so, I even seen buses, like, with people looking for flowers, and we're like, hey, there's no flowers. But, it's good for the whole town, it helps all the businesses, we make more revenue too. Yeah.
It's good, and thank you for dealing with the results of all of that. Yes.
How much capacity is there at the lift station for backup?
Okay, so basically, a couple years ago, when downstream came down and they cleaned the force main, was it like 6? The time goes so fast that I'm thinking 3, but it's probably like 6 or 7 years ago. They cleaned the force main, and we try it. It can take 24 hours before we get halfway on the manholes. So from the lift station, it can take 24 hours all the way to the bottom to the tire shop for the manhole to get halfway.
So it backs up pretty well though.
Yeah.
And that's the first manhole?
No. There's manholes every 1,000 feet or 500 feet. But if we're going to open them, we can see that, okay, where it's getting, so we can see the level that's getting up.
So you get to cycle pump.
And then, because, they were asking me for an 8-hour period. They asked me, hey, can we do it? So before they came down, I went and turned it out for 8 hours. Just a peace of mind for me, so I'm not gonna be like, yeah, we can do it. And then in 6 hours, all the water's coming out of it. So it's something that you gotta try yourself before they show up. Because they were asking me all that before they came down. So I did 8 hours, nothing. We wait 24 hours.
And it was okay.
It was fine.
And is that during like one of these busy weekends?
No, it was summertime.
So,
Busy weekends, I would say probably like 8 hours the most, because it's a lot of water.
right.
But again, projects like that, we're not gonna do it like right now. When there's so much traffic, construction and all that, we need to avoid that because the accidents and anything can happen. They do something, they mess it up, they don't have the parts, and now what? So that's why, those big projects is better to do in summertime, when things are slow.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about, if given super blooms and the possibility that we could have failure at the lift station, I've just never thought about this before. How much capacity do we have for the lift station to be down before we have a sewage problem?
No. You know what? There's a possibility that can happen. I'm not gonna say no, but we have 2 pumps at the lift station that pump 500 gallons a minute, and I have a brand new pump, a backup. If something happens, we just have to pull the other one and put the new one in the hole. It's ready to go. It's right there. It's a backup.
Is there a generator?
and there's a generator there. And again, I'm not gonna say, oh, no, don't worry about it. Hey, anything can happen in this
There's a
world.
plan for emergencies.
And so there's like, at a busy time, 8 hours is.
We don't know. This was it was summertime.
Right, but I thought I heard her just say 8 hours.
Yeah, there's a
During-
backup.
And again, I can always do a test and maybe update you guys next board meeting. Any day, like maybe on a Friday, I can just turn it on and just time it 8 hours. Go take a look at it, get the flows on the manholes, and we just go, you know what? This is what's happening.
Maybe do it at
Because
the end.
right now, yeah.
Not the start.
I see, the thing is like right now is the time to do it because we have so many people during the weekends. I can do the test, that's not a problem. And again, it's something that we have,
Just understand where the boundary points are, right?
Yeah.
And so now putting, you get problems when two unexpected things happen. One is this unexpected thing, like the lift goes out, and the other unexpected thing is Roy takes a vacation. Because, somebody who's like on top of like, really, Roy, you should be able to take vacations and not worry about us. So if Roy's on vacation and someone's not completely on top of the numbers, like, I think it would be good for the water district to know if Roy's on vacation and it's a busy weekend, we know that we need to check the numbers every 4 hours, and they give us a number. Because it could back up this fast, and then we would be, just have that, just to be able to answer that
and then,
question.
on top of that, Tommy, we have an alarm at the lift station. If something happens and the pump is not coming out, there's always somebody on call. Then we'll get the call, hey, you know what? The alarm. And then, so if the alarm comes out, the guys usually go over there. And again, sometimes the alarm calls you because there's so much water and the pump can't keep it up. So it takes a little while for the little flow. I will mention it to you. I go over there probably once a month. It gets nasty over there at the lift station. I have to get the float out because it gets so much product on top of the float that now it doesn't turn. So I have to get them out. I have to wash it, clean it, take the toilet paper, whatever, you name it, and then I put it back. And usually that's the problem when the alarm comes on. That the actual float wants to turn, but it can't do it because it's too heavy. And then the alarm is calling, hey, there's something going on, you better hurry up. And that's, if I'm here, the alarm calls me and I go over there. But again, it's not like it's happening every day. But again, like I told you, anything is possible. I'm not gonna say no. It's like the wells. You guys go and check the wells in the morning, half an hour later, something breaks and you're like, I just went. Yeah, but it's an upward process. Anything that is moving, anything can happen. But I mean, it's good, like you asking all these because, again, it's a part of the working process that you have to know, you gotta know. And even if I'm not here, I can call the guy, hey, you know what, just go do this or do that. And that's why, again, this is the busiest time, and that's why I run my cheap clarifiers. I waste every day. That way, like by tomorrow, if I get another slack, a lot of water, I have the cushion. I don't have to worry about it.
We appreciate you.
No, I'm just.
I'm here.
I'm just belts and suspenders.
I'm
belts and suspenders.
I'm told, hey, you had
This question is maybe for Jeff. We have begun a discussion to evaluate and maybe predetermine EDUs for commercial users. How long is that process going to take? When are we going to know if we're on the money or not?
Excellent question. I need to huddle up with Roy and come up with a game plan of how we're really going to go case by case, customer by customer. So
we really need to do that.
This is sewage EDUs.
Yeah.
Talking about.
Yeah.
Roy's been supporting Greg along with the flow-related data that's needed. We just haven't kicked over into the EDU issues yet. Roy and I have personally. I just got to bring him up to speed on what we've discovered recently.
And again, it just, I've been working with Jeff. We got to do it right. You know what I mean? It's just like we got to do my study, his study, and then we have to come up with it's fair for the customers too. We don't want to create another problem where we go like, you know what? Now you need less EDUs, and then any of the commercial buildings that have a lot of EDUs, they can go like, wait a minute, you've been charging me for all these EDUs those years. So now you're gonna have to give me credit. Well, I don't need these many EDUs. So we gotta make sure like everything is fair for the water district and the customers. And then we gotta make sure that whatever water they're flushing, we're gonna be able to handle it too.
So are the connections like at the mall? Are there individual connections for each of the businesses, or is it all coming to a common collection point?
They all come to a common collection like him. But, again, we're working where basically it's one connection, but it's 20 different.
It's both.
Yeah, so we gotta be able to hey, wait a minute. We're not just gonna charge you okay, just 2 EDUs when you have the mall with 20 different businesses. And everybody comes to water there. So that's why we've been working where we have to make it fair for them and fair for the water district and make sure we're not gonna create a conflict where, hey, wait a minute, now somebody's gonna sue us. I mean, you never know. Yeah, it's California. So we're gonna be ready for everything. So that's why we gotta be smart and work on it and just do it right.
I appreciate that.
The other part of Dave's question is, I believe includes a DUDAC report, right? And so that's, we haven't agreed, we haven't proposed that in the budget yet, in the meetings, we haven't approved it, so DUDAC probably hasn't started.
It started, yeah. It started.
But that gets to when will we get to the answer? We need to know when the DUDAC report will be complete, and then the Roy work too. So 2 work streams.
That's okay. We're glad to know it's being addressed. Any other questions for Roy? Diane?
I have a question that I was too slow off the mark to ask Jessica. About water revenues, basically. May I go back? Thank you. I'm just wondering, I feel like it would be interesting to know, with our increased revenues in February, for example, how much of that came from commercial?
Yeah, we have that.
And then, I would assume residential went down because we've had so much rain. So, yeah, if we could, I feel like that would be useful data to have around, see how much.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that at the next meeting. I could do the graph that says, what class, because we do separate all the commodity charges from residential, commercial, and irrigation, and we can look at the trends. I just don't have the past month information here. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, item 4C is the water production and use records. So, do we have anything?
Jess, did you get a chance to run the numbers? I was working on it, and I didn't get a chance to finish it.
This is just the production through February. So we pumped 114 acre feet in February, which it's the very last page of your packet, and it has the graph. So we're right on with what we had last year.
It's kind of amazing that it came up like that.
Yeah, it did.
115.
That must be flower bed.
I was thinking it was probably due to the increased people in town because of the flowers.
Because the rain is.
Pumped a little more water
Yeah.
for that. The rain, maybe we saved some irrigation. People might have turned their clocks off and saved a little money in their water because of that. I don't have a whole lot to report other than I'd like to thank our crew and staff during the past power outage. All of our plans to implement emergency procedures worked out really well. My on-call guy, Hugo, he had a heck of a week that week. We ran the emergency generator at well 5. We got the diesel going at well 11. It was a little sketchy because we only have one tank at the twin tank site, and we got fairly low before we did everything we could prior to that to keep the level up, and once we got everything working, it worked out perfectly. So everybody did what they were supposed to do.
Nobody ran out of water.
Nobody ran out of water. In regards to twin tanks in Rams Hill, we're very close to both of the pads, and the gravel bases are ready, foundation for the tank. We had some hiccups because of the snow and the rain. Our tank contractor was trapped in Lake Arrowhead for almost a month before they could get dug out to get out of it. So he's back on the job. He's waiting for pipeline materials, we're gonna go ahead and start doing some of the pipeline extensions to serve the new tanks while we're waiting for the tanks to be actually delivered. Twin tanks is supposed to arrive first, and then I'm not sure how soon after the ramp seal tank will happen. And, once the twin tanks is done, we'll do the demolition at Indian Head Ranch. So there's a lot going on there, but everything looked pretty good. We had a few leaks, mostly due to mechanical failure. We had a couple of saddles just explode on service mains, on main lines, because they were steel and not brass or stainless. Just old stuff. We have a lot of that in town. It's going to be common until we get the system fairly well built. Had some wind damage. All of our well houses sustained roof damage. We're going to get started on repairing the roofs. Also, we're going to freshen all the pump houses and stuff up with paint and try to make it all look pretty. Other than that, there's not a lot to report.
Yes, thank you, and thanks to Hugo.
Oh, yes.
All of his,
The whole staff did such a great job. I'm very impressed.
please pass on our appreciation.
Thank you. I will.
We, no angry phone calls.
No,
That's
I guess-
a blessing.
I guess we could talk a little bit more. We do have, there's some questions about the PFAS sampling coming up. We don't have to start sampling until April of 2024 for that. And what they were looking for is, I believe, is 12 months of sampling. Jessica and I are going to get together next week and discuss that, get the ball rolling on that. Also, the additional state monitoring requirements, we're going to get started on that as well. And also, it'll come to me later.
So there are new state monitoring
It's a-
ones besides the PFAS?
Well, the state isn't really in charge of the TFOS, it's the EPA. We received a letter from the EPA and they said you're going to be subject because you have 3,000 residents. They're not quite as stringent on us because it's a smaller system, but we still do have to follow through with that. But that's federally thing, and they're going to pay for all the testing. And they'll send us supplies, and I'm sure we'll be able to use our Babcock labs, issues for that testing. And a strong reply to it also. So anyway, that's about it. Any questions?
So I wasn't clear, you said the EPA says we don't have to report PFAS, but we're going to start?
No, we'll start on April of 2024. That's what they're asking us to do. They give you actually a 2-year window, but it's between 2003 and 2005. So as long as you get 12 months of the reporting in, I'm sure it's just going to be source monitoring at the wells to see. And I don't anticipate Borrego having a big problem because there's really no industry that produces those chemicals or contaminants.
They're mixed in pesticides, I was just reading.
Yeah, I could say pesticides, but most of it is like more industrial type, contaminant problem.
I'm sure there would be a lot around, say, dumps.
Yeah, the dump could be,
Airports.
the dump could be a source for sure. My understanding, it's a plastic residue that they use as a, let's say, Teflon coatings. Also, microwave popcorn bags.
Yeah.
So we're having that too.
Oh,
So it's a problem. Anyway, that's about it.
thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
All right. And last but not least, our staff reports. Diana, administration report.
Hi. It's nice to see everybody.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of go down my notes here, what the girls are doing, the ladies are doing in the office. Esmeralda is continuing to do maintenance and to prepare for our severe collections, the one that we send over to the tax roll. So she continues to work on that, and she anticipates that we'll have less accounts to send to the tax roll, so that's good news. We will be placing some liens on some accounts, and this is just to secure the balance that's owed to the district. These are for those accounts that are on payment plans, but we just want to make sure that we have them secured. And they'll be released once the payment plans are completed. Her and Val are beginning to work together on a procedure for final accounts. These are the accounts that they are perhaps selling their home, and we have balances that may not have been paid. And the amounts could vary, but we sometimes have had to give them a call and say, hey, you still have a final balance due. So they're working on a procedure to make sure that those balances are collected. And that we're also going to be receiving updates for when a Borrego Springs home goes up for sale. This will allow us time to send demands for payment if needed, and minimize the collection calls, and hopefully reduce the losses and any write-offs that we might have from final balances that are not collected. So that's something that they're working on. So as far as Val and customer service, Val is still working on the standby charges. These are the ones that are in the ID 5 Club Circle area that they get charged a per lot, per acreage fee. And it's a once-a-year billing, and sometimes these accounts, the lots are sold, you don't get notified, the amounts are past due, and there's such a minimal amount that sometimes they're just not on the radar. So she's working on those. She hasn't handled all the property owners and just moving towards the next step. And our ultimate goal is to get these hopefully on the tax rolls so we don't have to do it once a year billing. So she's working on those. We've had 20 new customers sign up for paperless and auto pay through Civic Pay, so that's continuing to be promoted, and I'm glad that these customers are signing up. It just, it's less paper for us to have to mail out, less postage, so that's good. As far as me, we had an inspector come visit us in February. He was from the EPA, and he came in to review our what's called an SPCC plan and our hazmat plan. SPC is our spill prevention, control, and countermeasure. So SPC is a lot easier to say. And our hazardous materials plan. So Manuel, Allen, and I, we worked to bring the plans current and submitted the changes to the EPA.
But it's not EPA, though, it's county.
The county?
It's serves.
For the service, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so.
Okay, I thought it was. Okay. So we had to submit this, and part of this is that we had to do training. So the training was done on both of the plans on March 13th for all the staff members. And along with that, the staff has been assigned hazardous materials identification and spill prevention course. This is through our online platform for training through Vector Solutions. So it's a self-paced course. It is required that all employees have knowledge of hazardous materials. So we do have, there's not really a timeline to it, but I would like to have all of us completed it as soon as possible in here. And then also all employees have been assigned training for flagger and cone safety. The crew has knowledge of how to direct traffic when needed, but if the office staff is needed to lend a hand, we want to make sure that we're prepared to help them out, which we've had to recently, and without the tremendous job that's directing traffic. But it just made me realize, like, we should be trained on how to do it properly. Let's see, what else? We installed our first meter for a customer that has gone through the water supply program. So that was just recently.
Is that commercial or residential?
It was a residential. Yeah, so we have a home being built here. So I think the grading started, this week or last week. And then as a recap for the BPA, we have 5.3 BPA that have been purchased, 2.8 pending, and then with paid and pending BPA, it leaves us with a 63.9 balance remaining. That's all I have.
That's great. I'm gonna, being notified when a house goes up for sale, is that like working with the listings, or how would you know that? I mean, sometimes things don't even have time to have a sign put up before it's escrow.
Yeah, yes, it is working with the realtor. They'll just notify us when the house goes up for sale.
Interesting. Good, I mean, it's a great idea.
Yes. Proactive.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Diana? Great, thank you. That was.
I like what I'm trading.
Yeah.
Right?
Tammy wants to come.
So we could do that.
Flags.
We could do that through GPIA, correct? We could do a flyer training through GPIA.
Yeah, I'm sure we can,
Yeah.
yeah. The flagger training, this is also through the Vector Solutions, which is online.
Okay. I'm gonna also have make sure that all of our crew is also trained in safe handling of asbestos pipe. Something that really hasn't been done in the past. I recently just did a refresher course, but I found out that everyone needs to have the 4-hour main course and then an annual refresher. So we're going to implement that. And also we're going to do a little work in our containment area. We've never really been up to snuff at all. So I'm going to purchase a container to store the pipe in and we can properly wrap it. And either every 6 months or once a year, we do have to have it disposed of. So we're going to get the changes up for all that. So,
Where does it have to go for disposal?
we hire a contractor out of Oklahoma and they haul it to Yuma and bury it.
Wow.
Goes to a landfill where it's approved. Has
Or
to go to an approved landfill. And, there's manifest chain, there's a paperwork chain that we have to maintain. They bring a box down and we will transfer our stuff into their box, and then it's a covered box. I looked into the possibility of buying one of those boxes and just having them haul it, so we don't have to handle it a bunch of times. I also looked into renting one of the boxes. It's a little outrageous, so I think we'll just, I'm gonna buy a modified storage container and install it, and then we'll do our storage there. That way it's locked up, it's identified, it's all. I talked to Peter at JPIA about the last time when I did the training. He said, yeah, your program really, your storage availability has never been that good. I said, well, we're gonna rectify that. So it'll be minimal cost. But the training is the most important thing. So all the guys on board with the training.
Everyone to be safe.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Any other questions for Diana? Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Now we go back to Jessica.
All right. So as the two budget committee members mentioned, we're going to be scheduling our second meeting, hopefully within the first or second week of April. They're writing the audit report right now, so we should have a draft next month. We'll bring it to the committee first, and then when they're happy to present it to the board, the full board will see it. Just to kind of carry on, with, Dave's comment at the beginning and just, all the changes under our more recent boards with the district. We've gotten, as Jeff said, $9 million in grants. The financial landscape of the district is very different now than it has been in the past when we had no money. So now that that's changing, just a heads up, a lot of these bigger grants require an audit just for that grant. So we will be seeing kind of our audit expenses going up. Also, with the next budget, I'd like to bring to the board some potential revisions to our capitalization and investment policies. Now that interest rates are going back up, we're seeing a return on our money in the bank. There are other places we could put our $8 million that's just sitting there to earn us more. So I'm actually, I have a meeting scheduled next week with, somebody reached out to me from an investment company to kind of help get the big picture. I've gone to some webinars from the California CDIC, and then also Dan McAllister at the County Treasurer's Office has done some really informative webinars on investments. So, this colleague said, he just wants to talk about it, no strings, not pushy. So I think, I might bring something to the board about how we can make more money off of our money that's just sitting there. And then just continuing to work with the sub-grantees on the Prop 68 stuff. March 31st is our first cutoff for the first reimbursement. So, we're going to be in deep reconciliation mode, making sure that everything posted to our grant accounts is getting reimbursed properly. Also working with the sub-grantees. The sub-grantees are supposed to give their reimbursement request to us they have until May 15th, and then we have until May 31st to submit to DWR. And yes, I have been working more closely with Martha and the school than the other sub-grantees. I know they might require some additional attention there, but the other organizations seem to have a good handle on it. And I think that's pretty much it for now.
Jessica, when does our audit normally come out? Because it seems a little late.
Yes, historically it's been like in the fall, September through November-ish. Last year it wasn't until February. This year it's March. They said that they had some staffing changes at the audit firm. Also with COVID, I think they got delayed because they couldn't do their site visits, but we shall see.
So is this the last year of that?
We have one more on our contract with this company, and we'll see how the next year goes. I know that, as I said, our finances are getting more complicated, so just like, dealing with the grants and the areages grants that we got, they want to stick their finger into every little hole there, so it's pretty intense, but yeah.
Any other questions for Jessica? Thank you. Thanks for all your amazing amount of work. And finally, last but not least, our general manager.
I'd like to update y'all on the engineering support. You recall Mr. Dale departed 4 weeks ago, so I'm talking to Dynamic Engineering about assuming the district engineer role. And they're working on a proposal to provide that service as well as some specific project work that's needed. Borrego Springs Road pipeline, Sun Gold pipeline design, all the projects that were funded by the ISEP money from last year. So Carlos from Dynamic Engineering will have a proposal for me to be both district engineer and specific proposals for pipeline design and bid support on these projects that we need to complete. I think as I mentioned last time, I'd like to see if there's that unicorn that's out there, to see if there's anyone, an engineer who's just starting, wrapping up, or maybe in the middle of their career, I'm not quite sure. That just might fit with us. So Esmeralda now hasn't had in the Aqua News. That's kind of the industry standard for anyone who's looking for a job. So we'll see what happens. Assuming the unicorn doesn't show up, you'll probably see a recommendation here in a couple weeks to proceed with dynamic engineering with our district engineer. But it's important that we get the design work started on these pipelines that were funded by the federal appropriation for last year. And then in terms of federal appropriation from last year, we're still shooting to get one this year. On our Best and Krieger legislative advocate and I had a call with Senator Feinstein's office Thursday last week. So we had a chance to talk to her staff about our projects and why we feel that they should support our projects in this next year's budget. So it was well received, and we'll see if we make their list or not. That was Feinstein. So last year, we didn't make Feinstein's list, but we made Rice's list and Padilla's list. So we'll see how we do this year. And as a little refresher, I submitted, what is it, Deep Well, and then, and Club Circle pipeline, water line replacement. A couple pipelines. I even put in valve replacement. So maybe we could throw in 10 or 20 key valves that Alan's kind of talking about we need to replace. So in theory, we could also do individual valve replacement that's not part of a pipeline replacement.
Historically, Feinstein has been a supporter of desert communities. Interesting to see what happens.
Okay, and then Thursday of this week, I'm being visited by the Assistant Director of the Department of Water Resources, Paul Goslin, is coming out to figure out and hear what's going on in Borrego. I met his boss at the Aqua Conference last year, Carla, the Director of DWR. Yeah, and she wanted to come out, so I kind of followed up with her over these last few months, and she's too busy to come out now, probably next year, like this year, after summer probably. But she's sending Paul out, so Paul's going to meet with her on Thursday. I guess Steve has spoken to Paul in the past, just generally speaking, and Paul's focus is Sigma-related issues. So,
He's the head of the Sigma program.
So I'm looking forward to he'll be here Thursday.
So I've spoken to Paul Goslin a few times, and I really groove on his Massachusetts accent. I lived there for a few years. Saying, when are you going to review our GSP? When? And he always says, we will. In this water quality activism that we've been doing with the Water Master Board, I've wondered if having comments from DWR on our GSP in that area would be helpful, give us ammunition in saying, we really, hey, Water Master Board, you need to spend more money on the water quality management part. So I hope that if you can talk with him about that. And I wonder if I could be here for a few minutes, or would that be?
I was going to give Kathy first crack at it. She's typically my wingman. We have big dignitaries coming to town, so
yeah.
Both of you could join also.
Just give us a time.
Thursday at 1.
I will talk to you about Kathy.
But in terms of the DWR review of the GMP, that's a good question. But to be fair to them, we said 2 years. We submitted it in April of 2021, so April of 2023 would be 2 years. So in that next bulletin, when DWR says, oh, here's the next Sigma stuff, I would expect our plan to be. That's right at the top of my list of questions to ask them. But they're not late yet. They wanted 2 years, and it was April when they wanted 2 years.
I thought we submitted in 2020.
That was the GSP.
So with the clock was
GMP was
reset,
recent.
it became the GSP.
Oh, yeah. Start all over. But it should be soon. It should be next month.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
3 days from now.
Yeah.
That's my motto, right? Doesn't hurt that.
So.
That was it on my
Any other
list.
questions? Well, then.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
the AMI RFP, is that
Still
gone out?
under development. It's in the final stages as we speak. Tell my shoes.
It's a big,
But other things are getting better. Less time.
Yes. Some of the other things we're working on start to settle out.
yeah, my email box has been dinging a lot less this last week.
Okay, anything else before we go into closed session? Then we will take a quick break. It is what time?
5
11.
minutes past.
Okay.
11:17.
11:17. How about 11:25? We reconvene for our closed session.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful couple weeks.